now it is time to welcome to the stage my old friend and anybody that's been watching Electric Playground for many years, your old friend as well. You know him as the creator of the Game Awards. He has been involved in video game media for longer than me, which is weird. It's weird. Please welcome Geoff Keighley. Yeah. How are you
doing, man? Good to see you.
Good to see you.
All right, this is EP Live. Here we go.
Live. This is the new way that we make EP. It's the only way
Okay.
we haven't made EP, except for this year. We cranked everything up to 11.
I was gonna say you never did live before, right?
Well, we did. We started live last year, and we
Okay.
had a small studio, which is where we made
But in the first like 20 plus years, no live, right?
Well, we did it like a Vic's Basement
That's
podcasting
right. You
thing.
do the streaming
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
So we
exactly.
took a lot of the lessons that we did from TV and a lot of the lessons from some of the streaming, and we kind of converged it. And I wish that we had done this a long time ago.
Yeah.
Because it's really fun. It's
Well, it's great because you got the community and chat right there live and everything, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah, it's really cool, and to have people come to a physical space, and the school has actually been an amazing partner.
Beautiful
for
here.
us.
Yeah, it's great. I've never been here, but it's awesome.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Yeah.
You're in town
This
for
is,
TED.
I'm here for TED this week. Yeah. So just happened to be in town, and yeah, I'm doing well. It's we're just kind of like ramping up for the year. We've got a lot of stuff happening in summer and fall, and obviously Game Awards. So yeah, first couple months of the year, just kind of getting things ready, and now I'm going into. We're like 2 months to E3. So
I know,
it's getting
right?
busy.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
This is your time to shine right here. Putting all the
I know about that. It's exciting because the industry is more year round now, right? So there's always stuff happening, and yeah, speak closer to the mic. All right, let people. I haven't done this before. I'm sorry.
These
man.
mics are very directional.
Yeah, so it's look, I'm so honored to be in the video game industry like you. Really did my first on-camera stuff with you back in probably like maybe 2000, 2001 or something like that.
Yep.
On EP, and yeah, it's been fun. Like, I mean, honestly, most of my life now is behind the scenes, kind of working on E3, Game Awards. We announced today we're doing a big thing at Gamescom, so yeah, I miss doing more on-camera stuff. So
Well, you're hosting the awards, which is
Yeah.
pretty damn cool. You're like the
Wow.
ringleader for all of this
yes,
talent that comes
for
through.
sure. But I miss sort of, I used to have a weekly show on television. I used to do, a lot of online stuff, and now it's like I'm honestly so busy building those shows.
Yeah.
It's like the Game Awards really takes all year to build. So yes, I still do host that at the end of the year, but it's a long build up. And I think, people always ask me how long does it take to make that show, and it's like most of the year,
Yeah.
traveling around the world, meeting developers, talking to people about stuff. So it's a different beast than doing the weekly shows, but it's a ton of fun. I'm honored to do it.
Well, and I'm honored to be able to have you here.
Of course.
And to
No.
catch up with you too, because it's been
Yeah.
it's been too long. And I did read that. I think it was a gaming variety article about you working all year on these
Yes.
productions. And I would imagine that a big part of your work is like cutting things out, because I
Yeah.
would imagine a lot of people want to be on the awards and reveal their games,
Yeah.
or even on the YouTube shows that you put together, but
Yep.
you can't do everything.
Yeah,
So how do you
no.
tell people no, you can't be on my show?
Well, it's look, it's always a conversation, right? And
Yeah.
I think one of the things I really am proud of with the Game Awards and the other shows is that we work with the biggest games in the world, right? We'll have Hideo Kojima on stage, we'll have Rockstar on stage, but then we love the smaller indie games that we like to show off. We had a game last year called Among Trees that like one guy in Sweden was building by himself. So
Yeah.
honestly, we look at a lot of stuff, and I'm honored that people bring us stuff. So people always ask me and say, hey, how can we get on the show? And I'm like, well, actually, what you can do is just send us an email, like share with us
Thanks, Blake.
share with us, your game and what you're working on, because I love the idea of finding the smallest game out there that we can find a gem. And yes, but there are a lot of things we get pitched that just don't fit. And sometimes it's not even just because this game doesn't look good. It's like we may have too many of that style of game, right? So I'm very conscious of kind of curating it in a way that we kind of, hit all the right, buckets, right? So we don't have too many superhero games. We, have something for Xbox fans, something for PlayStation fans, something for Nintendo fans. So that's really, a lot of what I do all year is kind of shaping the show and trying to represent, I think, the best of our industry inside of it. So it takes a lot of work, and sometimes it's never personal.
Yeah.
But we like to look at everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's what you learned from EP and from game trailers,
Yeah.
right? You would
Yeah.
try to cover everybody through the course of a year, but now
For
it's
sure.
just all
It
put
all-
together in 3 hours.
Yeah,
or-
no,
Yeah.
and the stakes are very high because we've had amazing announcements, every year. Like even last year's show was so incredible, it's going to be hard to top it. So that's the thing that we face is I don't make the games.
Yeah.
I only can bring them to you. So when people don't get a game they want or dream about being announced at the show, I'm like, sorry, like that game doesn't exist. So we're at the mercy of game developers, but I think it's gonna be a great year.
I think me, I think your first taste of actually even before that, I was going to say G4ia was your first taste of.
No, the first award show I worked
did
on
something
was
before
a kid.
that.
Yeah. Producer in Toronto actually, a guy named Peter Heyman worked on the first ever that I know of televised video game award show called Cybermania '94.
Crazy.
You can actually watch it on YouTube. It is Leslie Nielsen from The Naked Gun, another Canadian, and Jonathan Taylor Thomas hosting it from Universal Studios in 1994. And I got to write the narration for the nomination packages that William Shatner read.
Oh, wow.
So that was like the nominees that year were like Doom from id Software, Myst, Mortal Kombat, games like that. They were nominated at that show. So yeah, I worked on that when I was literally a kid. I was like 13 years old.
I don't know if everybody knows this, but you were like 17 sneaking into E3. When did you start? Like 15, 16?
The first article I wrote about games was when I was 13.
13.
I previewed Sim Farm by Will Wright in I think 1992, and then I went to the first E3 in 1995 when I think I was 15. It was 18 and above. So the first 2 or 3 years of E3, I had to have a special letter.
That's amazing.
I've been to literally every E3, which is like an insane badge of honor. That I was so lucky to be growing up.
Yes.
At a time when you and I got to go to E3.
Yeah.
And it inspired me, man. When I was walking around, same thing for you. It's like makes you want to stay in this business. And when I'm an impressionable 15-year-old kid in high school thinking about what's my career going to be.
Yeah.
It's like the opportunity to go to that, even going to Cybermania '94, going with my dad and like having this experience, it inspired me to want to get into games. And I always think about that when, put together something like Game Awards. It's like, who are the kids who are watching or who are in the audience
100%.
to say, hey, I want to make games. I want to be up on that stage one day winning one of those awards. And sometimes it takes things like that to get people excited.
That's why I have the conversations that I do too. It's so important to sort of like think about how to pass on this information. And yes, E3 was incredibly validating because I spent money to go to E3 to kind of put into the production of
and you were lugging around huge cameras and it was like, the old days we had to have like all these printed press kits. At the end of the day, I remember my bag would be so heavy because I had all these like slides and CD-ROMs and press kits. So I'd go home with my shoulder would hurt for days because I had all this paper I was lugging from like EA's stack of press releases.
Yeah.
So
we'd go down with like boxes of beta tapes and then come back with...
That's right, you had the tapes too.
It was like Santa bags filled with tapes that the companies were giving us and that we were shooting. But and E3 definitely did inspire us, and I feel I want to transition to E3 because it's a big one this year with no Sony, and now we've got Google in this mix. But how does it feel to have been a part of all of these different award shows and to compromise, I think, along the way, right? To see the business sort of compromise itself a little bit and to get that heat and then to finally get some validation to put out your own stuff out there and to kind of take the reins completely on the Game Awards.
Sure. I mean, I think what happened over all those years was a learning experience, right? And I think a lot of people, when I used to do G4ia or when I was doing the Spike VGAs, folks would always say to me, it's like, oh, how are you involved with that? It's like, it's not great. And I'm like, no, it's not great. But like, I think, if I can sort of change from within the system, it's in some ways more powerful than just doing nothing. So I learned a lot. Like I learned how to make a big scale award show working for all those years at Viacom. And no, it wasn't perfect, but they were investing. I was learning. And, in many ways was the training grounds, the proving grounds to be able to eventually go off on my own. So now, when I finally had the opportunity to go off on my own, I used kind of all that knowledge and then finally kind of put my own name on something and said, hey, this is what it should be. So far, I think the audience, is responding to that. But I like, it was always tough for me, but I think, and you said the same thing. It's like, video game television. It's like a lot of people sort of, even G4, there are people that sort of would pretend they knew kind of what this audience would want.
Yes.
And it's like, ends up, it's just growing pains. And now it's lucky, I'm honored to be in the position where we sort of don't have any gatekeepers. We can just kind of make the content we want. Same thing with you. It's like you can do this here. There's no network executive telling you book this person.
Well, I've always had autonomy, and I think the beautiful thing of being based out of Vancouver and being a small sort of scrappy production outfit is like people just trusted me.
When you were always great, because I feel like in Canada you always had your base of Canada, so the stuff in the U.S. was always like kind of cherry on top. Was nice to have, but you never needed it, and that was so great.
Well,
with G4,
we never had it all firing at the exact same time either.
Sure.
Like we would get a lot of U.S. distribution and not have the Canadian stuff go for a bit, or the web would be working, but it's
amazing that I said through all these changes, you've stayed true to this, and same thing with me. It's like there's like one of my early.
Miss those days, man.
No, those were
fun. That was one of my most enjoyable days. We're looking at the Star Wars Battlefront.
That was a good, probably, what was that? Probably early 2000s or something, like probably 15, 18 years ago, or was it, or mid 2000s?
The first Battlefront, and we had to convince LucasArts to go off, let us shoot with stormtroopers in the woods, and I got major thank yous, and I know that they showed this to George Lucas, and people loved it, and I'm still in touch with Chris Susan, who's an awesome dude.
Wow. It's been like, look, it's an amazing industry, and you and I are still in, but a lot of people making games today are people that we've known for
nobody leaves.
Plus. Exactly. Yeah.
A lot of them shift and do a lot of different things. You and I have been pretty lucky, and Jeff Gertzman to kind of continue on a path that we set out for ourselves, but nobody leaves. We just kind of shift around.
No, and I love like all these developers. They're such great people, and that's why it's so nice to be able to honor them on a big show like the awards.
100%. Let's talk about E3 though, because Sony isn't going to be at this E3, and I think for you, just as it was for me, the first E3 that the PlayStation launched at in 1995. Was a seminal moment. It was like, oh my God, of course this is the career to be in. Look at this party,
Yeah, that was an amazing party on the Sony lot with Michael Jackson there, and it was an insane.
It was incredible.
Insane event. Yeah, no, it's sad that PlayStation isn't there at E3, but I think the industry's changing. We'll see what happens moving forward. I think E3, it's great that the whole industry is together. It's very important for me at the Game Awards to have everyone together. I think that's why that moment with Phil Spencer, Reggie Fils-Aimé, and Sean Layden on stage to open the show was really important to me, and I kind of knew what was happening with E3. We had heard by then, so I was like, can we unify everyone, bring them together? All the more reason for that. So, I think this is, obviously kind of a transitional year. Sony today even was, teasing some of the details around the next PlayStation. So it's always, those transition years are always kind of awkward because it's like, do they have hardware to show? Do they have games to show? Sony has so many games announced even now that are still not out, right? So it's like Last of Us 2, Death Stranding, Ghost of Tsushima. I mean, big games. I think I hope it's not the case every year. It's going to be like this, but it's going to be an interesting, unique year. But I will say there's such a shift, I think, in trade shows and what I found with Game Awards. Like so much is moving to kind of digital media, right? We've seen Nintendo Direct, Sony's got State of Play now, there's Inside Xbox, there's all these different ways to kind of communicate with fans. So
for sure.
One of the things we're thinking about a lot with Game Awards is how do we expand sort of the audience, right? And E3 is great for, 50,000 people in LA, but I know from the YouTube show, it's like there are millions of people around the world that want to sort of experience it. So I think
they won't though if there isn't that thing to coalesce. If they don't feel like there's a party going on that they're getting a ticket to. And I think that's why it's incumbent on the games industry to keep that party happening and make it a festival, less than a retail showcase, because those days are done.
Oh, for sure. That's why I think it's got to move more towards a very consumer focused event. And look, I mean, there's Blizzard does BlizzCon, and people do individual things. But what I love about E3 is that everyone comes together, right? And that's sort of, that's what's great about Game Awards. So, yes, I think it's, look,
Is this something that the ESA has to fix because of the expense of the LA Convention Center and the way that they set up the business there?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think that E3 is in a transition because it was a trade show, and even now it's sort of, kind of half a consumer show and half a retail show, and they've added consumers to it. But there are a lot of challenges. And look, anything as big as that, it's just so hard to transition, right? And one of the best things I think that happened with Game Awards is that I just started from scratch, right? I said, hey, we're not going to keep doing the VGAs or VGX. We're going to start something entirely new that is kind of born of the digital age and the internet. And I think something as big as E3, it's really hard. And I saw that with VGAs. there's so much momentum.
Yeah.
It's like you have to book out the convention center years in advance. And it's like when one show's over, it's already like, are we coming back next year or not?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's so hard. For
and you're
them to
paying
change
for that room,
Exactly.
even if you don't have
Oh
all the
yeah,
time.
I mean that's like, and even people
pressure.
ask me about Game Awards.
Yeah.
Like we have to book the venue at least a year in advance
Yeah.
to get the dates we need and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, E3, it's like they have to book years and years in advance. So
Yes.
it's a really hard thing to do. But look, I think it's going to be interesting this year with no PlayStation for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And you know, it's sad in a way, but I also really I understand their decision. I think given sort of the circumstances. And, you know, we'll see. E3 is, I think there are going to be a lot of great games there at E3.
Well, and it's exciting that Phil and Jade are running this whole Google thing, which may shake up the business in some really significant
yeah, I don't
ways,
know.
too.
I mean, I don't know what their plans are for E3 there. I don't think they've announced that they're going to be there or what they're doing.
Yeah.
But, yeah, early days for, I think, Stadia, but certainly exciting that there are new players coming in, right? And
Yeah.
that's the thing is, like, with all this streaming, you know, PC continues to rise, mobile, it's getting even more interesting. So yeah, I mean, games, it's never boring, right? I think
No.
that's why you and I have stayed in this business, because
100%.
every year there's something new happening.
You don't know what it's going to be when you wake up. every
Yeah,
day.
and it's not like, you know, there's no PlayStation at E3 and the industry is on this glide path to history.
Yeah.
If anything, gaming is bigger than ever before.
Right.
It's just sort of changing. And I think you know, I always am super conscious of changing with the industry and not sort of resisting that change.
How do you find time to play? Because, you know, I am very acutely aware that I've made a lifestyle for myself as a reviewer
Yeah.
that I have to play.
Mhm.
But playing requires a lot of time.
Yeah, no. Look, I used to play a lot more when I was reviewing, right?
Yeah.
And now it's like I can kind of sample everything. And, you know, for the big games, you know, like a God of War or Red Dead, those I you know, pride myself on sort of playing all the way through and checking those out because they could be nominees and whatnot.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I don't get to play nearly as much as I want to because I've, you know, kind of been building the business
Yeah.
of the Game Awards, which
Yes.
has been, you know, it's would be more fun to be able to sit there and like jump into Fortnite creative mode and just like make stuff and things like that. I just
You can't on the other side of it, unless you're
Yeah.
streaming that game and that's what
no,
you do,
and that's
yeah.
because I've never got
Yeah.
you know, live streaming gameplay and all that stuff. It's just not what I've done, and you know,
Yeah.
streaming on Twitch or YouTube. It's like I kind of
You have a different job.
Well, I do, and it's really, you know, it's building up all year for these big events, right?
Yeah.
So that's why like people don't see me for months, and it's like because I'm working on this stuff, kind of building and getting ready.
Do you
for
miss
E3.
reviewing? Because
Yeah,
we
it's,
reviewed on
For sure.
on the show.
No, I
quite a
mean,
bit,
I
and-
did a. You know, look, I miss reviewing. I miss sort of the investigative journalism stuff I would do with the Final Hours stories. I
Right.
miss doing, you know, live interviews with executives and things
miss
like
doing
that.
Star Wars Battlefront.
Yeah, that stuff was a
segments.
ton of fun, and I
Yeah.
just think it's like it's all kind of
I
evolved.
miss directing those.
Yeah, those. And the
yeah.
effects you guys were doing back in the day. I mean, this is, you know, stuff that again any kid can do now on a computer, but like when you're talking, you know, 15 years ago, it's like the, you know, insanity what you guys put together with, you know.
Yeah, that's Tavis
And,
Dunn. Shout
yes.
out to Tavis, who did all of this work, by
Oh,
the way.
Tavis is incredible. He's,
Yeah.
yeah,
He-
for I mean years has just been
amazing.
one man shop.
And now
doing
he's
all that
working
stuff.
for the news. He's doing great,
Really?
great work for the
Uh-huh.
news, for
Okay.
national news. But
Oh yeah, no, but this is,
we
you know,
miss him in this kind of
world class stuff.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's really like it just evolved, and I think yes, I do miss reviewing games, but I think I'm sort of best served doing what I'm doing now. I'm honored to be in sort of this unique position
Totally.
to pull this stuff together.
Yes.
So I miss that, but there are lots of great reviewers out there. There are lots of young people coming into the space, streaming games all day.
yeah.
So I'm kind of uniquely equipped to do what I'm doing. So I kind of focus on, you know,
Yeah.
what I think is the best use of my time.
Well, and honestly, you've had a lot of great successes based on things that were changing and ending, and you know, like you took some doors closing and opened new doors, and all
Yeah.
of those lessons, and
No, I
created your own industry, your own business, or your own.
Yeah, and
angle
that was
on this
just
business.
natural, right? And it wasn't any big master plan to sort of, you know,
Yeah.
take this or that. It's like, yeah, the TV stuff like with VJs and G4 and all that. I was just kind of watching, right? And even when I was a kid in like high school and college, I was, you know, working for EP, writing articles, but it wasn't really my career. And then when I sort of graduated, it's like, oh wow, I think I can, you know, G4 was just starting. I'm like, oh, maybe there's something here. So it's been a pretty natural progression of going from like print to television,
Yeah.
and then to online, and then now to streaming. And that's what I said. Like, I think I'm always thinking about kind of what's next and where the industry is going and trying to adapt to that. So,
Awesome.
got to figure out the next thing.
And I know you will. We've got a couple of questions in here. I saw
Yeah.
Sam I Am 111 always with a good question. With so many legendary studios that have fallen, have you ever considered a VGA Hall of Fame for classic dev studios and celebrating their works? That's a great idea.
Yeah, so we've done a little bit of that with the Industry Icon Award that we gave to Sierra Online the first year with Ken and Roberta Williams, and the second year was Westwood Studios.
Yes.
Brett Sperry and Lewis Castle. So
Yeah.
that's
and then
definitely...
you had the River Raid.
Yeah, Carol Shop.
That was amazing.
Yeah, she's...
That was my favorite thing that you did.
What a moment, right?
Incredible. Because
Yeah.
I loved that game.
I know.
And so did you, I'm
No,
sure.
and so many
Yeah,
people are like,
right.
I had no idea
Yes.
this is the lady who made it.
No,
So,
it was just great to celebrate that game and then to dive into that person.
Oh, yeah.
was
No,
amazing.
the after party was amazing because everyone came out. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe you are the person that made that. So, yeah,
Bravo.
that's really how we try and recognize some classic franchises.
That's awesome. Let's see if I've got any more. Geoff, what game are you expecting to see at E3 that you would be the best of the show? That's from Audrey on Leon.
It's a great question. This year's going to be interesting because we won't, I think, have any PlayStation games there, which are typically, big nominees. Gears 5, which is made here in Vancouver.
Yep.
We expect that from Xbox.
I think that's going to be
that'll
incredible.
be a big one.
Yep.
Not really sure what Nintendo's going to have. Jedi Fallen Order from EA, even though EA is not at E3. Maybe that'll be around. I just saw that Star Wars Celebration in Chicago this weekend, which looks cool.
Yeah.
Great story-driven game.
Love those guys.
There's other stuff. Borderlands 3 will be there. It's early. It's hard to say. I don't know if there's necessarily one front runner, but I think there'll be a lot of good games at E3.
Another one from Sam I Am. What are some of your favorite behind-the-scenes moments from the Video Game Awards?
Wow. There's so many moments, right? And it's, it's always been great to work with Mr. Kojima and some of the crazy antics that we've done over the years. I remember the, famous, Phantom Pain when he did that, and people didn't know it was Metal Gear, but it sort of was, and he was teasing that, and that was really kind of fun to just see the internet kind of discover that.
Yep.
When he revealed that game. So that was probably fun. And yeah, it's every year there's something new that happens. And, I always say those shows, you want something unique to happen. You just don't know what's going to happen. And certainly there's the the Oscars, Joseph Fares moment that people remember.
That was amazing. Yeah.
And that's just stuff that just happens. So, last year, the God of War Read It Boy moment, that just kind of went viral. And we had no idea that was going to be a big moment in the show. So that's part of the fun of these things, is that you have a 2 or 3 hour block of time. You hope some great things will happen. You can never predict what's going to trend, but usually it's been a good thing versus a bad thing.
That's awesome.
Thankfully.
I am so impressed by your continued, growth as a creator in this space and what you are doing with the opportunities that you have. You make me proud every day, and I'm very grateful that we've been able to, be friends for so long and do cool things together.
Thank you,
I hope you will come back often.
I'd love to. Yeah. No. Yeah. I spend most of my year traveling around visiting studios, and definitely some great studios up here in Vancouver. So yeah, I'd love to come back. I think what you've done for games in this industry is incredible, and you've been very devoted and pure in your love of games, and I think that's really honorable that you've always kind of made the show you want to make, as you said, kind of on your terms, and I think that's really important in this world, because you said the industry is changing, but at the end of the day, it's still the same. A lot of the same people making games, and thankfully a lot of the same people talking about games online.
And they love it as much as us too, right? They're all caretakers, and they're trying to figure out how to do this business in different ways. And
that's what matters more to me than the viewership or anything around Game Awards. Is that the developers really value it, and when I meet fans, they appreciate that there's something like the Game Awards that I think pays the proper respect.
Yes.
To this industry, because you and I lived through many years of people sort of, not really getting games.
Totally.
Still to this day.
I know.
Well,
it's, both you and I commiserate all the time that there is not, EP vanished and game trailers vanished from television, and they're still you can click around all over.
No, and again,
it's ridiculous.
But the thing is now TV's dead, right? It's over, and it's just sort of that's what I'm excited.
Only by their own decision to let it die, as opposed to saying.
Well, I guess it's just changing. When we first did Game Awards, everyone's like, I can't believe it's not on TV. And it's well, most people were calling it up on Twitch on their 65-inch television, watching at home. And now we're live in 4K on YouTube. It's better than cable. So, I think, gaming, but still at the end of the day, the attention around gaming is still not as great as it should be, and it's not sort of representative of how big it is in the entertainment spectrum. And you look at the excitement around movies still, and it's like games still don't quite have that amount of mainstream acceptance.
100%.
And that's really a lot of my work in my life has really been devoted to kind of elevating this medium and its creators and celebrating it in a grand style. And Game Awards is supposed to be this kind of interesting, kind of blurring of all the entertainment mediums and having film directors and actors and musicians and game creators all together to create something that I hope really shows the world that games are the most powerful form of entertainment in the world. My goal now is to get the Game Awards to a spot where it is, the biggest awards show in the world. And I think we're kind of, we're getting to that point.
So you're going to get there
it's
for
like,
sure.
And it's all of us together, right? Because games continue to grow. And that's
Yes.
what's most exciting to me is that we are on a trajectory now to keep growing this thing and backed by the fans and the game developers and publishers. I hope within my lifetime, people will, think of the gaming industry and the awards as part of that as big or bigger than something like the Oscars. And I think it's actually possible, which is really exciting because there were a lot of years where I didn't think we were going to get there.
Yeah, I know. And it's because we've sort of put all of that investment in traditional media to kind of figure it out. But truthfully, anybody that's played a game knows how powerful an entertainment source it can be. And it eclipses all the other.
And like Fortnite last year, what that did to sort of, open the aperture to what games can be. And I get really excited. So whenever I have a down day or I get frustrated about, building that show and the stress that comes with, kind of owning it and financing it and producing it, I get really excited, though, about the opportunities.
That image of having Reggie and Sean and Phil on stage, that is the future of games. We need to take that as the beginning of where we're going with this medium.
Thank you.
This territorial pissing match that's happened in games forever has got to go away.
Yeah,
and it needs to be inclusive.
I think that's was really important to me to get that done, and it took many months to pull that together. But again, I think everyone does believe that in their heart of hearts that we're all in this together, and we're going to kind of together grow this business and make it bigger and better than ever. So we're going to keep doing that.
You rock, Geoff.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, buddy.
Great
Good
to see you.
Yeah. Have a good time in Vancouver.
Thank you.
And let me know when you're back.
EP Live. Thanks for having me on.
Of course.